This is WWE superstar Drew McIntyre, and you're listening to the WWE Podcast.
The champ is
the one that everybody wants, me.
Becky Lynch is going to WrestleMania. Claymore!
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. This is my iron. You're going to acknowledge me.
Let's do the mailbag, everybody. Let's see what you guys have to say this week as we are about a week and a half away from Survivor Series. I know you guys have a lot to say with what happened over the last week or so. I'm sure Sami Zayn's going to come up, and the world title match, and Roman's absence once again, and maybe the women's division, because we still have one of those that seems to be put on the back burner. I haven't scanned any of the emails. That's just kind of the topics I'm guessing you guys are going to go after. But before we get there, thank you, everybody, for joining us here on the WWE Podcast. We are growing quickly, and I really appreciate it as we continue to spread the word. And if you haven't told a friend yet, well, tell a friend about the show, because we don't have advertising. Well, we don't have an advertising budget anyway on TV. You guys are the way that helps. The biggest way that the show grows is by telling people, telling a friend. And if you want to also go ad-free, patreon.com/WWE podcast. So many different benefits, including a brand new tier. We have NXT and now NXT Plus. And what that gets you is the After Dark adult version of the show every other week. So that's a pretty cool deal. And if you want that show full-time, it's on the SmackDown side of things. All right, let's do it. Let's get to your emails, and let's start with, let's see, of course, patrons get priority, and we'll start with patron Frank. And Frank says, let me talk to you. I got a question for you, Matt. Whoever dethrones Roman, will they be the 1,000-day champ or go back to the Undisputed Championship? I don't know. I would imagine that they're just going to call it, if I were them, I would just bring it back to either the WWE or the Undisputed Championship. One of the two, because it got very wordy when the belts got combined, and you're hearing different variations of what Roman's title is called. You've heard variations over the last year of what that is, especially when Roman was carrying 3 belts around. He carried the new one Triple H anointed him with, but then also Paul Heyman for a while, doesn't do this anymore, but for a while was carrying the Undisputed, or the WWE and Universal. It got very weird, and I think that they'll just either be the WWE or Undisputed, or the Undisputed WWE Champion. How about that? That sounds simple. We don't need the Undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion. It's too much. Okay, what is the deal with naming the team for War Games Cody's team when Seth Rollins is champion? I don't know. I said this on my Monday Night Raw review. I kind of got pissed about it because Seth is our world champion. WWE makes a very big deal that he's a fighting champion, which that narrative makes me want to vomit, but they make a big deal about it, and Seth has busted his ass, and he's been a good champion. And somehow Cody Rhodes, who's never won a championship, by the way, is being told to us it's Cody's team. I don't understand that. I would imagine it's because he gets a slightly bigger reaction when he comes out. The fans sing a little bit louder for his song. I'm not sure. But that is extremely disrespectful to your world champion and championship, that Cody, not your world champion, is somehow running the team. And it's labeled Cody's team. Yeah, it's stupid. I think Drew will dethrone Gunther, and Damian Priest will try to cash in on Seth, but when they open the briefcase, there will be no contract, and JD will cash in and beat Seth, and Damian will leave Judgment Day. Drew will be the leader. Well, I don't think Drew's ever going to join a group. I know that I've been an advocate of, and I still believe he will turn heel. I don't think Drew belongs in a group. If you're in a group these days, it's because you need to be. In other words, a group can help get some attention to you. It can give you the rub of other stars that are running the group. Drew does not need to join a group that already has 4 guys on it and 1 woman. We don't need that. We don't need another person in Judgment Day. Drew would get lost. Maybe I'm wrong, and maybe he's a great leader of Judgment Day, but his character doesn't even seem to fit that. I also don't know if we're going to go down the Drew and Gunther road again. He could very well still be the one to dethrone Gunther, and he's absolutely a credible one to do that. But we got to look at who needs it. I don't think Drew needs that, nor does he need to join the Judgment Day. I still would have him beat Seth for the world title. And I know what you mean about Damian cashing in. There's no contract. I thought there was somebody that sent me a video that showed the contract was physically changed from one briefcase to the other. But maybe something behind the scenes that JD did where he screwed Damian for everything, the way he's been treated as trying to, be a part of the Judgment Day, and Damian treated him like crap for so long. Maybe this is how JD gets revenge. It still could happen. One more question. So Raw is having a War Games for the men, and SmackDown's having War Games for the women. Why aren't they having one for SmackDown men and Raw women? Thanks again. I love listening to the podcast every day. It keeps me entertained when everybody's saying WWE podcast. Yeah. And I know, by the way, Frank, I do see your message to Anthony for his show. I will get that to him. So I'm not going to bring it on this show because it's not meant for this show. Which, by the way, guys, the After Dark show, the adult show, anything goes, and you can send questions to me and I'll forward them to Anthony for him to answer on his weekly After Dark show, exclusively for those on the Patreon side of things. All right. So the reason they're not going to do this is because that means, what are they going to do? Have 5 or 4 War Games matches? I actually wouldn't mind if they were to combine them. If they wanted to have men from SmackDown versus men from Raw, you could do that. That way it kind of kills 2 birds with 1 stone, but then you're going back to the Raw versus SmackDown narrative, which is just ridiculous and has no bearing, no consequence. You might as well at least keep it to a brand where you can forward a storyline instead of having it be completely an exhibition match in which you can't do anything with the results. Do you know what I mean? And the same thing goes for the women. So unless you're going to have 4 War Games matches, which is not going to happen, you can't do it. But thanks, Frank. I'm glad you enjoyed the show. Thank you so much. And let's continue with our patron, Anthony. Anthony from California says, can't wait for Survivor Series. You kept saying that heel turn for McIntyre was on the way, and it's here. Excited for that as well. Kind of felt a little bad for Zoe Stark. She tried to have her mic drop moment, and the crowd was pretty silent for her during her promo with Rhea. So, first of all, the heel turn from McIntyre. Sure, that this is the closest moment we've had to a heel turn, but I was cautious on my anointment that was Drew's final, a definitive heel turn moment on Raw. Yes, he shook hands with Rhea, but you have to look at what Drew has done and what has been done to him. And what it was done to him, if we remember Clash at the Castle, it was, horrific for Drew's career in storyline because you had Jey Uso and others cost him the opportunity to beat Roman Reigns in Cardiff, Wales. And they took that moment from him. So Drew, is he not justified to do the same to Jey? So while the fans probably don't care about that, and there's been enough time that's passed that they're not so sour on that, and they're probably thinking to Drew, get over it. You put yourself in Drew's shoes. He's justified in doing that. Jey was owed one. A little worried LA Knight might not have longevity due to his mic skills. Oh, wait. Before he gets LA Knight. Zoe Stark. Yeah. She did not have a great night. But here's the thing. How could Zoe Stark or anyone in management think she's going to have a mic drop moment that leaves the fans going, oh my God, and rallying behind Zoe? Because she has had, since the Trish Stratus pairing, no mic time, no character development. We know she's good in the ring, but that's all we know. We don't know anything about her. So how can fans even give a damn about anything she has to say when they don't have anything to really look at and go, oh, wow, I relate to this woman, or I don't? There's nothing. So you're basically working still with a blank canvas. You've got a lot of work to do before fans get emotionally invested. So this is not going to be exactly, giving away state secrets here. There's no chance Zoe Stark wins this, nor should she. But what do you expect, All right. So back to LA Knight. You're thinking he may not have longevity due to the mic skills lacking a bit. I agree with you and Anthony that we all wanted to push. And I feel like they rushed it to say, well, here you go. Now shut up about it. Keep up the good work. Really enjoy the show with Sharon and from Israel. Have a good week. Yeah, thanks, Anthony. And I enjoyed the show with Sharon as well. I believe he has a voicemail coming up too. So, look, LA Knight, compared to others, I mean, if we're going to use mic skills as a barometer for how well someone's career is going to go, Roman Reigns would have been, in the lower card of things, because when you look at his big dog persona, remember that? And Michael Cole's incessant need for 7 years to say, and the big dog is going to hunt. How many times did we hear that shoved down our throats? He couldn't cut a promo. Of course, Suffer and Succotash, one of the most infamous promos that he ever cut. The absolute decimation that he suffered at the hands of John Cena. There is just time after time, example after example. If someone could point to me just one really good promo that Roman Reigns cut when he was the big dog, which was out of 6, 7, 8 years, not 8, maybe it was 6, 7 years when he was the big dog. That's a pretty big sample size. Someone needs to come to me and say, look, here, send me a YouTube clip. There isn't one. It doesn't exist. He's cut awful promos, putrid promos, okay promos, and an occasional just good, but very good to great never came across Roman Reigns' babyface big dog character. So I really wouldn't use the mic skills of LA Knight as a barometer for him in terms of success moving forward. But what I will say is he's way better than Roman Reigns was during that time. And I don't think he's bad. I actually really enjoy LA Knight's mic work. He feels comfortable. I have been critical of his mic work because he relies too much on quick, witty, elementary school, but still funny insults. And those can get you to a certain point, but it's, you reach the end of the road on that pretty quickly where it's like, all right, cool, haha, but like, can we feel more? There's got to be something deeper. Give us something more. Everything doesn't need to be quick-witted and funny. See, I think that's where LA Knight falters. He leans a little bit too heavily on that and not enough on actually grabbing the hearts of fans and pulling them along with you because they find you entertaining. But I think he could use some help in the emotional attachment to fans' standpoint. Like we need to feel for you. But I agree with you and Anthony. About the here you go now, shut up. That could have been WWE's logic of, well, Roman's going to be gone again from end of November to end of January. And at that point, he's in WrestleMania season. We've already got plans for Roman, and he's going to be probably working with Cody. So let's just get this LA Knight nonsense out of the way. That could be the idea. The other thing is they probably are looking at this as a test, a litmus test for fans of, okay, you got the match you wanted. Most fans never believed he was going to win because it's too soon. But how do fans react post a massive loss? Do they stick with LA Knight? Because this is the real test. He went from winning a Battle Royal 6 months ago to now, in a main event with Roman Reigns. He was not favored in anyone I looked at to win. And he lost. Now what do the fans do? Do they jump off the train? This is where the rubber meets the road. It's easy to build someone up. It's easy to get them to that well, not easy, but it's the path has been set for that. We know how to get certain stars that we want to the main event. The key, though, is when they lose that main event, that you push them along to get there, and they lose. What do the fans do? Do they go, well, damn, we tried, and they jump off the bandwagon? I hope not. So we all need to stay on the LA Knight bandwagon and stay on it as long as we can. All righty. Let's get to another patron, Charlie. He says, this is Charlie from Milwaukee. I've been looking on the website for Royal Rumble and Elimination Chamber, and Roman isn't scheduled to be at either. With that being said, I've been doing some math, and if Roman were to retain his championship at Mania, he could break Hogan's record at the end of August. Last time I checked, there was a pay-per-view in Germany at the end of August. Isn't there a certain ring general that comes from Germany? If they play their cards right, why not have Roman maintain the title until the Germany pay-per-view and have Gunther be the one to end Roman's reign? Here is a more deserving champion than Cody will ever be. Keep up the great work. Everyone have a good week. Well, the good news is that Gunther is not from Germany. He's from Vienna, Austria. So I was going to say Australia. Austria. So not Germany. But I understand what you're saying. It's still overseas. You could say it's quote-unquote his backyard. They could push that narrative, just like they did with Drew. Okay, even though it wasn't anywhere really near Drew's hometown, it was kind of quote-unquote close enough where they made it more or less of a homecoming for Drew. You could kind of push the same thing again, even though he's not German, and have a little fun with that. And absolutely, Gunther is on the table to beat Roman. The problem is they're paralleling each other right now, and they're both having massive success. Gunther right now is a heel champion. You've got a formula that works. You know, he's kicking ass as Intercontinental Champion, doing a hell of a job, and on a historic run. People buy into his heel character. And there is going to be a time, probably in the next few months, where he drops the belt. Now, the good news is when Gunther drops the belt, that is probably a signal that we're off to the races with Gunther to chase someone as champion. It could be Seth. It could be Gunther versus Seth. But I would imagine that in the next few months, Gunther's finally going to lose his IC belt. And that's a signal, though, for good things for Gunther. And he could be the one to still beat Roman at the end of August. That's enough time to get a little bit more of a heel run out of Gunther, get everything he can out of it, turn him babyface, and then have him face Roman Reigns. But if that's true what you're saying, you know what? I can't even imagine, though, that Roman Reigns is not at the Rumble or Chamber. There's just no way. I've been saying he should be there for every PLE from here to Mania, and I maintain that. But if that's true, I won't even know what to say at that point. That's just it's just sacrilegious. I don't even want to go there because it'll set me ablaze. It's bad enough he's taking all this time off. And you know what? Here's the thing. People are saying, well, what if he's sick? What if his cancer's back? Okay, fine. Absolutely, that should take priority. But it also shouldn't set the world on fire. Meaning, everyone else shouldn't have to suffer. Everyone else's career shouldn't have to suffer for WWE's narcissistic, self-serving need to tick off more days with these large chunks of time he's not even there, of which it's getting stupid. And just to say that he's been champion for longer than Hogan. As I've said, I don't care anymore about Roman's run in terms of, oh my God, wow, it's going to be so cool if we see him beat Hogan's record. You know, I can tell you right now, you're not going to sit there when you have kids one day, if any of you do have kids, or maybe you tell your grandkids, whatever the case may be, and you're going to go, oh my, remember where I remember where I was. It's going to be like 9/11, right? I remember where I was when. I shouldn't probably point to a super tragic event, but I remember when this. Sometimes there's certain things in your life you remember exactly where you were, what you were doing. I can tell you right now, if Roman beats Hogan's record, people aren't going to sit there and go, oh my God, I remember that. It was a Tuesday. I was in a coffee shop sitting there, and I scrolled through my phone and said, oh my God, Roman beat Hogan's record. Nobody is going to do that. So I really am very befuddled as to what they think they're going to gain by just saying that Roman has the number 3 longest reigning. I don't even care if they were able to say he is the longest running champion of all time. I don't care. That doesn't mean anything to fans anymore. There's nothing more that you can gain from this Roman run. There's only drawback. There's only negativity that you can get from Roman continuing to just be absent and hold the belt. I know he still has some great opponents that he could work with, but he's not effing here. And guys' careers are suffering, all at the altar of making sure Roman ticks off day after day after day. And WWE can say, wow, see everybody, we made history. WWE, you know, they love to make themselves some history, talk about history, first time in history, this time in history. That's all fine and well. But the average fan, even the hardcore fans, are going to look at this and say, yeah, this doesn't mean anything. Like, cool, he beat Hogan's run. He's already a Hall of Famer. Yeah, okay. Like, there's nothing left. There's only bad. You are just sucking the life out of the company little by little, like a death by 1,000 paper cuts every day that goes by. All right. I think I've made my dramatic point enough. Oh, where the hell was I? I lost the email. Okay. Well, thank you, Charlie. There. All right. Let's go to another patron, Chandler. And Chandler says, let's see. He says, let me talk to you. I haven't watched Raw yet this week, and I honestly don't plan on it, considering it's the same thing I've seen for the past month. I don't really have anything to talk about. So I thought it'd be a good week to give you my top 10 stars of all time. If anyone disagrees with me, my list, you're wrong. Well, Chandler, let me say this. First of all, the email's too long. I have to just come out and say it. I'll read it, but just so everyone gets the memo, you guys, just so we continue to make sure that this mailbag doesn't get extended into the following week or into the mailbag on Sunday, we got to shorten our emails. I'm not looking for a sentence. I'm not looking for a one word. What do you think about Roman Reigns? Like, no, it can be like a paragraph or two. If you read it to yourself and it's longer than a couple of minutes, it's too long. Okay. So, I'm trying to be fair to everybody, but Chandler, let's go. So number 10 is Roman Reigns. 1,000 Days. 9 is Edge. Everything that can possibly be done in WWE, he has done it. He missed the prime of his career and is still considered one of the greatest of all time. Number 8 is Randy Orton, the youngest world champion of all time and possibly the greatest heel of all time. I'd say Vince McMahon is. Honestly, I know Vince McMahon wasn't considered a true performer, a true wrestler in the traditional sense, but I would challenge anybody to find a better heel than Vince McMahon from 1997 to 2000. I really don't know. I mean, Triple H during his world title reign was pretty damn good in Evolution, but I think Vince McMahon is number one. Vince McMahon was just the best heel I've ever seen. It's number 7, Triple H. This man has given life to this industry. Not only has he achieved success in the ring, but also backstage and on the business side of things. He's a multi-time world champion and has been in the business since his 20s. Number 6, The Rock. The only reason he's at 6 and not higher is longevity. He's one of the most charismatic and likable dudes ever, and he comes from possibly the greatest wrestling family ever. Well, there's more than one royal family. Didn't you know that? Number 5, Ric Flair. One of, if not the most charismatic man to ever hold a mic. 16-time world champion, still wrestling in his 70s. I don't know if I'd put that in my resume. I don't understand the thing is, I don't know if that's something I want to flaunt. But regardless, if he was a heel or face, he drew numbers and money. Number 4, Undertaker. Now hold on before you pull out your pitchforks. I think that the last four on this list can be put in any order. Possibly the greatest character in wrestling and the most believable. Whether he was the American Badass or the Phenom, he always swept people off their feet. Number 3, Shawn Michaels. I mean, come on, have you seen his matches? Number 2, John Cena. Star power. The only other 16-time world champion. And number 1, which I happen to agree with, Steve Austin. The top guy at the biggest point in wrestling. At WrestleMania 17, when he made a deal with the devil and shook hands with Vince, from what I've heard, they lost millions of dollars in merch. And if one man in the business can cause that, he definitely is the greatest ever. Yeah, Steve Austin is, it's undeniable that Steve Austin was the hottest, biggest star ever produced by a wrestling company. Again, he didn't burn the longest, not by a long shot, but nobody burned hotter. Not The Rock, not Triple H, not Kane, not Taker, not Jericho, Hogan. I still believe nobody. Warrior, Andre. while there are all absolute monsters in the business, no monster is bigger than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Nobody drew more money. Nobody sold out more arenas in that short period of time and pay-per-view buys than Stone Cold Steve Austin. Nobody. He may not be the best, quote, technical wrestler, but he was a guy that you talk about a needle mover. He is the needle. So, totally agree. All right. Another patron, Freeman. He says, hey, Matt, I wasn't planning on writing all this week, but I wanted to respond to the point you made around the Halloween match the other week. And you said no one likes these matches. Here, this is going to be fun. Well, I have to say you're wrong, and as a grown man, I must say they're great. I've said before that wrestling doesn't need to be all serious all the time, and having a stupid, fun taste break is good. We watch wrestling because it brings out emotions in us. The best matches are the ones that take us out of what we're doing in the moment and leave glued and transfixed to the screen. This can be done through traditional means or by putting on a spectacle so outlandish and absurd you forget what you're actually watching. These style of matches bring out raw emotion and leave you flabbergasted and shocked as to what's going on. Just like the best matches of all time, they go all out and go one step further. In wrestling, we are told that anything could happen. Well, only in these matches is that true. The rules of reality stop and make no sense anymore, and you never know what to expect to happen. But I also love the style of these matches because it's that feeling of watching a train wreck before your eyes. You can't look away, but it keeps getting more and more awkward, and they all sell it sincerely. They reach the level of cringe that makes you want to scream into a pillow and die from secondhand embarrassment, something only true great comedies can do. If they were every week, they would get old fast, but every once in a while sprinkled in makes it for excellent viewing. Okay, Freeman. Okay, well, we are, and this is fine, this makes it fun, on complete opposite ends of the spectrum when we look at how we define what's entertaining. And before I respond to this, I will say, I genuinely am happy that you enjoyed this stuff because the companies, AEW and WWE has done this throughout the years, have put on this type of stuff, and that's a word I'm using very lightly, and sanitizing the words I want to use. They're putting out this content for someone, and I'm glad that you enjoy it. I mean, really, because I don't know who they were trying to reach. I have never been a fan of this, but if this is what takes you out of the moment and it's a kind of get you up moment or it's a fun, as you call it, taste break, good, cool, great. Again, wrestling is subjective. And here's the thing. You and I could battle back all day, back and forth, about why this, from my perspective, this stuff should never be in wrestling and why you think it actually is a good thing. And we'll never convince the other one to change our minds because this is just, at this point, it's woven into the fabric of how we view what is entertaining in wrestling. We're not going to change each other's minds. But what I would say is this. I don't want to watch a product that exposes itself intentionally. Meaning, in professional wrestling, we all know it's a work. Of course we do. We all do. Everyone knows this. And that's why I always laugh when you have people go, we still have it to this day. I still have people to this day go, you know, that fake stuff, as if it's some kind of revelation that I'm going to come to and go, wait a minute. What do you mean fake? It's fake? What do you mean they're not competing for real? I'm sure you guys have the same experiences as wrestling fans. It's almost like these people are still out there going and thinking that there are wrestling fans walking around that actually believe this stuff is a true competitive nature, and they're actually trying to hurt each other. It's flabbergasting. However, I don't want a product that we are supposed to believe and get engaged with as real, even though we know it's not. It's like watching a movie. We know going into the movie, it's not real. Watching a TV show, it's not real. But during the movie and TV show, what if they stopped in the middle of the movie? Things are getting real good. They stopped in the middle of the movie and all the actors and actresses came out and they have a big food fight. And, you know, the bad guy and the good guy are hugging and they're throwing pies in each other's faces. And, you know, they were about to kill each other 30 seconds earlier, but now they're best of friends and they're just having a ball laughing. And then 5 minutes later, after the food fight's over, they clean each other up and then they go back to pretending that nothing happened. You're telling me that doesn't take you out of the moment? You're telling me that that's a positive, it's a net positive that you have these deliberate acts of attempts at comedy that to me are absolutely secondhand embarrassment. To me is not comedy. Like, they are not one and the same. They are antonyms in my mind. Like, if somebody tells me that they got secondhand embarrassment, I'm not going to think, oh my God, I bet you it was so funny. I'd be in tears. No, like, to me, like, that's not how I view it. I understand there can be comedy in wrestling. Comedy is very difficult to do no matter who you are. That's why there's very, very few comedians that sell out arenas. I mean, you have very few. Off the top of my head, I remember Dane Cook. Okay. Bill Burr, Matt Rife is like the Gen X superstar right now. I know that, but there are very few that can do comedy and do it well. It's even more difficult when you try to create comedy in wrestling, when the people that are in wrestling, the men and women in wrestling, are not trained in comedy, nor are they here because of their comedic skills. So when you put people in here in which you're trying to get them to do something that's already difficult even for experts to do, and try to make comedy and force and manufacture comedy, it does create secondhand embarrassment, which doesn't make me go, oh my God, I'm gonna laugh. No. I can't do it. Train wrecks don't make me laugh. Train wrecks make me want to change the channel. Train wrecks make me roll my eyes on TV and wrestling anyway, not real ones. So I can't look at a train wreck of completely cannibalizing your own product for a sad attempt at a comedy segment that is not needed and go, well, I needed that. Yeah, I needed that let me up moment. Now let's get back to the stuff. I mean, this is, I can't. I mean, I don't know how else to explain it, but honestly, I'm glad you enjoy it, because that means there is some kind of audience out there for this stuff. I mean, when WWE did their terrible food fights and their gravy bowls and their Halloween trick or treat street fights and all the stupid stuff they do, and I actually really, really despised a lot of the matches they did during COVID that were very cinematic. I know a lot of you loved it, and that's great. That's just not my thing. That's all. Not my thing. So, I don't know. I'm going to go in circles. But before I do, thanks, Freeman. Appreciate it. All right. More patrons. Let's keep it rolling. This is Darren. He says, hey, WWE podcast family. I just bought tickets to Raw on January 1st, and I'm super excited. The last event I went to was Taboo Tuesday in 2005. Oh my God. You were 10 years old. Wow. It got me thinking, so I went on Peacock and watched it back. It was actually a stacked card, but one I don't remember at all is there was a Divas Battle Royal in lingerie. That must have been when my dad took me to the merch stand. That's all for now. Just thought you appreciate that good dad moment. Thanks, Darren. Yeah, that is a good dad right there. Because I can tell you, if you were 10 years old and you saw that, that would probably be the only thing you remembered from the event. So your dad did you a favor, because, I think, and I'm not trying to get too serious or dad on anybody here, and I was a victim of this too, is just the culture has turned into that kind of stuff in your face all the time, everywhere, every second of the day, that we're so overexposed and numb to it that it actually, I think, is like changing our brain chemistry and really effing with our childhoods. I mean, I could go on, maybe I'll do my own After Dark on this topic of that. I'm trying to be PG. That kind of stuff, the sexuality of wrestling and other stuff, if you know what I mean, being exposed to kids too soon. And I think it screws with our heads. And it desensitizes us and screws with our relationships. And I'm not going Dr. Phil. I'm not trying to put that hat on, but I just leave it at that. But I will say, if you were 10 years old in 05, they were still in the ruthless aggression era. That means that your dad was still letting you see some pretty violent stuff, but it's wrestling. And I think at 10 years old, you can, that's not as bad to be exposed to when it's, your dad can explain to you, hey, this is a, they're not actually trying to hurt each other. I don't know what he said to you, but it's better, I think, than exposing you to the other stuff. of seeing the women in, bra and panties at 10 years old. So, but 2005 Taboo Tuesday. I was just talking about that with Anthony DeMarco. I said, hey, I would love to bring it back in December. It doesn't have to be in middle of the week. It doesn't have to be called Taboo Tuesday, but bring back a virtual event that fans can get involved with and vote on. I think that'd be a lot of fun. So, cool. Thanks, Darren. I love that kind of stuff. All right. More patrons. Let's go. This is Gyro. This Gyro says, been listening to the podcast for several months and decided to become a patron. Well, thank you. Just wanted to ask your thoughts on a possibility of a Hell in a Cell match for WrestleMania 40. No disrespect to Roman, but I'm tired of outsider interference always happening, whether he faces The Rock or Cody. Would a Hell in a Cell match make any difference? Love the podcast and thank you. Well, I hope I pronounced your name right. Jairo. Gyro. I'm sorry if I F that up. But so I like Hell in a Cell when it's not the name of a pay-per-view, where it's not forced on us, and whatever programs happen to be going on, whatever rivalries happen to be going on, they're in the cell because, well, the calendar says it should be. Hell in a Cell, which Triple H has taken out of the calendar cycle, has been now relegated to when the matches and programs deserve it. And I don't think that would be a bad idea of having Roman being put in a situation where he can't have the bloodline help him. Which you would think, though, that after 3 years of seeing it, somebody would say something to Adam Pearce or the new GM of SmackDown, Nick Aldis, and say, hey, Roman's been doing this for 3 years. Can we just ban everyone from ringside or they're fired? Can we just do that? It's amazing management hasn't stepped in or somebody complained to management yet. But I like that. I like Hell in a Cell, and I actually like Hell in a Cell with Cody better than The Rock. Because The Rock Roman, as I've said, and I continue to say, if it happens, if it ever does, it needs to be no title and a straight up wrestling match. I don't want to see weapons. I don't want to see gimmicks. I don't want to see titles. Because it takes the focus off of what this match is, and that's intra-family. Like alpha male versus alpha male competing with one another for the true head of the table. Maybe their families at ringside, they could really get into this. That's what the focus should be. I don't want any gimmicks or anything with The Rock, but with Cody, absolutely. Cody and Roman, WrestleMania 40, Hell in a Cell for the Undisputed Championship. Bring it on. Thank you, buddy. Thanks for becoming a patron. All right, DJ. I see you. Let's go. DJ says, hello, AEW and WWE podcast world. It's DJ Kuzmo back at it again on the Mailbag show. I just want to briefly talk about the Santos heel turn. In the words of Santos Escobar to Kathy Kelly, Ray had it coming. I absolutely love this heel turn, and it makes all the sense now as to why Santos left brass knucks on the ring apron for Logan Paul. This is now the fourth person that I can remember that has turned against Ray. Eddie, Batista, Dom, Santos. This was a good opening to SmackDown. I'm looking forward to seeing what happens next in this storyline. Survivor Series is next week, if anyone forgot. That's all for this week. DJ Kuzmo signing off. Yeah, I'm glad you reminded us because, after Survivor Series, as I said, we've got 8 weeks between events, so we got to really soak up Survivor Series because we ain't going to get another PLE till the end of January. So, yeah, I'm glad you brought up the heel turn. I loved it, too. It breathed life into Santos. It breathed life, honestly, into Ray. Everyone's not so buddy-buddy. He knows he's going to have a great match with Santos. They've already had a great match for the U.S. title. And I think that this is a program they're made for each other here. And it's personal. I love I agree how he said Ray had it coming. And Rey Mysterio, he fought back a little bit, then he was sorry, and then Santos continued to beat on him. It was just great stuff. And it also shows you that SmackDown doesn't need the Bloodline storyline. We were all wondered, including myself, when this Bloodline storyline fades, what's SmackDown going to feel like? Because it carried SmackDown for months and months and months. Well, we are seeing what SmackDown looks like without Roman, without the Bloodline storyline dominating, and it's just fine. So Thanks, DJ. We'll get to that Veer Mahan reports very soon. All right, let's talk to Mason. Let's talk to Mason. He says, War Games is coming up soon, and I think having Drew join the Judgment Day is a good idea for the fact he is in the Judgment Day. He is in the Judgment Day. J.D. McDonough makes a mistake at War Games and costs them the match, and then Drew takes J.D.'s place in the Judgment Day, have a program between them. Second, okay, well, again, I don't... Under normal circumstances, to get Drew to be a heel, if you want to put him in the Judgment Day, I would say sure, but Drew, I don't know if that would do more damage to him. Because the focus would be taken off of him. He feels like a lone wolf. Every heel doesn't always need a group behind them. It's a tried and true formula. I have nothing against it. But we have so much of that going on that I don't mind lone wolf badass heels. That's fine for me. And Drew is not a guy that needs a group. Sure, he could join to help other stars, but they've already got stars in the group. They got Finn Balor, Dom's on the rise, Damian Priest has really come into his own, and Rhea Ripley is skyrocketing. They're doing just fine. They don't need Drew's rub. This group isn't, in its infancy anymore. It's a very well-established, mature group. And Drew, I think, would kind of fade into the darkness, so to speak, with joining the Judgment Day. Now, sure, it'd be a big scandal. It'd be a big talking point. But ultimately, outside of the first couple of weeks of the shock and awe and the explanation, I think it would kind of fade and people would be like, he's better off on his own. So, second, am I the only one that thought LA Knight saying Grayson Waller sounded like an STD, Grayson Waller effect sounded like an STD, and that Grayson didn't look like he was allowed within 50 feet of a school really funny? Maybe it's just that I'm part of a high school audience of WWE. Well, that could be it too. It was a funny line. Again, it goes back to my comments about LA Knight earlier, where he's good at the quick-witted kind of, elementary lines that are, it's almost like the Yo Mama jokes. It's the equivalent of that, like a step or two above it, but they're funny, they're witty, and you could absolutely throw those in. But it can't be the crux or the meat of his promo. And he's made it the meat of his promo, which then turns him kind of into a, hey, what funny things are you going to say this week? How's he going to insult this person? Instead of giving us a little more substance of who are you? Why are you here? What's your history? What's your mission? He checks the boxes sometimes, but a lot of times he relies on his witty jokes, which admittedly are funny. They've been pretty good. But I just think it's not something he can lean on long term if he wants to get the crowd emotionally behind him, not just, haha, make me laugh, clown. You know what I mean? That's the problem I'm worried about with LA Knight, is that it's just kind of the crowd looking at him and going, make me laugh, clown, if that makes sense. So, all right. Thank you, Mason. Let's see, David. I think yes, David. David says, so what if the WWE has enough balls to make Roman champion for another 3.5 years? Honestly, don't put anything past them. The things we think we shouldn't do, they do. Mainly out of spite. I feel that it's just a defiant act to show that WWE is in charge, even if us fans protect. And since we pay to watch, sit down and shut up. Basically, that's their logic and how they justify to make their actions seem right. It's possible. It's kind of counterintuitive, though. I mean, they're just, if they are only halfway through the Roman Reigns run, which we're about the halfway point, if we're going to go for the the Bruno Sammartino run, or his 280 or 2,800 and some days. If we're only halfway through, people are going to, literally be at WWE headquarters with pitchforks. It's not a good idea to piss off your fans just to try to spite them and prove a point. I know Vince has done that at times, but generally he eventually bends to the will of the fans. He bent to turn Roman heel finally, and that we ended up being massively like gigantically correct, even to the point of not even realizing how correct we were that Roman's better off as a heel. Case in point. And when we wanted Daniel Bryan in the main event of WrestleMania 30, we strong-armed Vince into that. But there are times when Vince just chugs along. He chugged along with Roman as a babyface big dog for how many years that the fans regurgitated week after week for the most part. But I don't think it's a good company strategy, especially if you're in the business of making money, to just do things to spite your fans for long periods of time just to prove a point that you're the alpha and they're the beta. Not the best long-term strategy if you like making money. But I just totally understand what you're saying. It does feel like that at times. But don't forget, they also have other masters to serve. We are not their primary source of income. I said that right. WWE fans are not their primary source. We are a significant portion of it with ticket sales, merchandise, network subscriptions, everything under the sun, video games. Yes, we do. We pump a lot of money, millions into WWE every year. But you know who pays them more? Who pays the bills even more? Besides Saudi Arabia, are the sponsors. Sponsors pay enormous sums of money to be on WWE programming. So sponsors are a massive, massive portion of their income. And so they have more than one master to serve. So it's not always about what the fans want at that given moment. All right. Anyway, you won't like what I'm about to say next, but I heard a rumor that Roman isn't nearly done with his title reign and it's being extended. So the WWE, I guess, is going to turn him babyface to keep his championship reign fresh, and Solo's going to turn on him. What do you think about that? Would you be invested or no? No. Just no. And the reason is not because I don't think Solo's going to be a star and he's got a bright future. I don't want to see any more intra-family Civil War stuff. It needs to go outside. And they brought LA Knight in. Even though we knew he was going to lose, at least it was somebody outside the bloodline. It needs to be other guys outside. Just by being in the bloodline, you're getting exposure. You need to expand your reach. Okay? There's other guys that he can work with outside of the bloodline. So sure, that's a program down the road. Maybe we're talking about it in 8 to 12 months if Roman's still champion. And at that time, sure. But at this point, no, get out of the bloodline. They need to get out of their bubble. You notice no one's even talking about it. Like, if this championship meant so much, wouldn't there be a revolt among the actual existing men on the roster on SmackDown and saying, hey, Nick Aldis, this is BS. Where the hell is our champion? I want a championship match. He's never here. This is nonsense. You should strip him. He's not defending it. But they don't do that, because it doesn't fit the narrative. But that's what would happen in real life. Anyway, let's see. It depends, or I'm sorry, if that does happen, the one person that I'd like to see the title take the title off him is a returning Dean Ambrose. Once he's finished with his run in AEW, how fitting would that be? Well, yeah, it would be. I don't know if Jon Moxley or Dean Ambrose has any interest in returning to WWE. Even if Vince isn't there, I'm sure he believes the culture still remains. And he has so much creative freedom in AEW. That was one of his biggest problems in WWE, that he can just do whatever he wants. His schedule's a lot easier on his body. He's got a family now. Sure, that sounds good on paper, and I'm sure at some point in our lives, I'm sure Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley will return to WWE, maybe for a short run. Sure, that's possible, but not to be the one to take it off of Roman. I don't think he's got too much freedom over there, and I think it fits him better. Lastly, everyone knows how good Logan Paul is in boxing as well as WWE, but a dream, or as Michael Cole would say, WWE. It's so weird. But a dream match of mine would be him versus Floyd Money Mayweather. Undefeated versus fastest knockouts. And both of them partnered with WWE before. Logan currently. So who would you put your money on in terms of Logan Paul versus Floyd Money Mayweather? Well, it already happened. This happened on June 6th of 2021. I won't spoil the outcome for you. because if you haven't seen it, you should go see it. It's not the greatest fight in the world. It's better on paper than it is, I think, in execution, but it already happened. So I'll leave it there and won't spoil things for you. Okay. Where are we here? Thank you, David. Let's go to Jason. He said, this is J. Miles Miller from Oregon. 2 quick things for you. 1, can we get a program with LA Knight and Cody? Just so I can hear the following from LA Knight. Listen, Stardust, I've got the finish to your story, and it reads, I got my Nepo baby ass kicked by LA Knight. The end. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of fun you can have with that, but I don't think they'll do that because they are on they're hell-bent on Cody staying babyface. It would jeopardize LA Knight's run because the fans' loyalty would be split. They'd be forced to choose. A lot of the fans that are supporting LA Knight are also supporting Cody. It would force them to choose, and I don't think that's a good place you want to be. But sure, this is the program and the actual promos would be funny as hell. 2, I don't really know how War Games works, but could the Money in the Bank briefcase be brought out during the War Games match, allowing for a group brawl for the title? Would be gimmicky, but could be fun to see Damian versus Cody with all the other wrestlers fighting to help their guy pin. No worry of disqualification. No, unless there's a championship match that exists already, I don't think they can cash it in and bring everyone else into it by default. Because it's for Damian, it's not for anyone else. That would be wacky. You'd be really muddying the waters with rules and what do you do and is there a group, and it would be bizarre. So I don't think they'll do it. But I would watch for a cash-in at Survivor Series. Yes. Thank you, Jason. All right, John. Let's. You also have a longer email, so trim it down, my friend. Trim it down. All right, just like the turkey. First, want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving. I really enjoy your show. I listen to it in the mornings, and it makes my workday go by faster. Well, that's awesome. Thank you, John. As I just, told you to stop sending me so many words. And I mean this in like a respectful way, everybody. Like, it's just an easier show for everyone if the emails aren't super long. Couple paragraphs, call it a day. And I think everyone enjoys that. If I'm listening, I've heard mailbag shows before in wrestling, and I like the quick kind of to the point questions. So anyway, John, let's roll. Thank you, and happy Thanksgiving to you as well. Few questions and observations. First, I want to get your opinion on Bronson Reed. I loved his match with Gunther a few weeks ago and feel like he's worthy of being one to end the long reign. It also seemed on Raw they teased a potential Bronson Reed face turn when he tsunami'd splashed Ivar, with Reed being from Australia and the Elimination Chamber being down under in a few months. Do you think this could be part of start of a Reed IC title run where he takes down Gunther in his home country with the crowd 100% behind a face Reed? I think Gunther will lose the belt in the next 6 months, and I hope so because I want to see him move on to the next challenge for the heavyweight title down the road. I know it's probably not going to happen, but Gunther versus Rollins for the heavyweight title would be an epic match. But I like Reed, and I think this would be a great way to move him forward to get him a big win in his home country. Sure, you could do that. I mean, it's so funny. Everyone's looking at all these events that are in different countries. But yeah, I mean, Elimination Chamber is not far away. It's closer than we think. Bronson Reed right now is still a heel, and I wouldn't mind though Gunther and Bronson Reed. You could make Bronson Reed a babyface pretty quickly because people haven't really made their minds up about Bronson Reed yet. He's still relatively new. And I think that, you could put Bronson Reed in a position where fans would get behind him. Cut a couple of good promos. As you said, it's in his home country. Absolutely. Even if he's a heel, he'll be cheered. So put him against Gunther, give him a win, and then have Gunther in February, which is when Elimination Chamber is. Immediately following that, you have 5 weeks, 6 weeks till WrestleMania. After that, you could build a Gunther versus Seth Rollins match between now and then too. So I like it. Second, there seems to be a lot of course corrections lately. For example, a couple months ago, it seemed like the entire bloodline was at odds. Jimmy hated Roman, Jay attacked Jimmy. They were teasing Solo turning on Roman. I felt like we were in an all-out fatal four-way civil war, and maybe that was their plan. Then all of a sudden, Roman disappears, Jay goes to Raw, Jimmy loves Roman again, which I still can't figure out. after he had just gone off on Jay, how he didn't want Jay to become like Roman. Yeah, I totally agree. Made no sense. And honestly, I normally would hammer them for a lack of congruency and just basic holes they didn't fill. But in this case, I want Roman to not be champion. So I don't even care. Like, just can we just exonerate Roman as champion, please? There also needs to be a tag team championship, which Cody and Jay won, and they seemed like they were going to appear on SmackDown more. And then a week later, they lose it right back to JD or the Judgment Day. I can't figure out that one. There's also the whole Chad Gable thing and his family, them teasing a rematch with Gunther, which has been totally dropped. And then Damian Priest and Finn seemed like they were heading towards a breakup, and that kind of went away. It's just been weird. It has been weird. I'm glad you brought all these things up. Now, some of them are probably deliberately put out there as, oh, we're going to tease it, but we're not going to do it, which is fine. Not every time you tease something, you need to have it come to pass. You can put red herrings out there and little teasers that you actually have no, you have no plans of fulfilling, but it gets fans talking and maybe off the path of what you're actually going to do. So I don't know if it's course correction or if it's just them purposefully putting out these things to get us off the trail of whatever we're on. Logic would tell you that's probably both. A little bit of both. But yeah, Jimmy coming back, no explanation while everyone's cool again. And then, yeah, Jay and Cody were going to be on SmackDown. And then they're like, well, let's not do this yet. And then they gave the belts back to the Judgment Day. There's a lot of, I agree. It's kind of like, as you said, course correction or callbacks and like, oh, wait, no, we didn't mean to do that. And then they change course. Again, I think it's probably both of those options or both of those solutions is course correction and also messing with fans, which is fine. I don't mind being messed with. I want to be put off the beaten path. I want to be surprised once in a while. Speaking of Priest, what do you think the plans are for him? I'm kind of getting sick of the cash-in teasing. At this point, we're going to have 2 Money in the Bank winners hanging out there if this one goes on a few more months. Like, if you're going to have him challenge Seth, do it already and move on. Maybe it'll happen at War Games after Survivor Series. I don't know. I also don't even see Priest as heavyweight champion material, but that's just me. I feel like Drew is more worthy of being the one to take down Seth and be the new champ. Maybe in the end, he helps Damian win the title. I'm just wondering how Drew joining Judgment Day impacts Priest's plans for him using the Senior Money in the Bank if he ever uses it. Or maybe he does and actually loses, which is rare, but it wouldn't be the first time. Again, happy Thanksgiving, John. Well, happy Thanksgiving to you as well, John, and your family. So, as far as Damian Priest cashing in, he has 1 year to cash in, which you won't ever have a crossover or overlap of dual Money in the Bank winners because his contract expires by the time the Money in the Bank briefcase is up for grabs again. So that's not a concern. But I think he has a high likelihood of cashing in at War Games. He is running up against the clock here. There's not too many more options and too many more months left where he can cash in. We've got like, 4 or 5 months left where he can. And so I think that is it's becoming increasingly more likely. That's just fact. So I don't know if I would put him as champion because if you do, then Seth wouldn't be able to work with Cody for the world title if they want to go there, or maybe it is LA Knight versus Seth Rollins for the world title at WrestleMania. You could do a lot with Seth as champion. So there's a strong argument to keep Seth as champion. There really is. And I know Drew you feel is worthy, but the question I always ask is, does that person need it? And I don't know if Drew needs it, but thanks, John. Okay. Did I reach the end? I'm clicking. Did I reach the end? Yeah, I did. Okay. I reached the end of the email portion of the show. That means it's time for voicemails, and it is time for, well, y'all know who's coming. Here we go.
Podcast World. This is DJ Kuzmo back at it again on your Mailbag show. Record to you live on a Wednesday morning, on another cold Wednesday morning. And before we get to the Veer Mahal report, I got to give a shout out to everybody and to some of you that have sent me the text messages wishing me happy birthday this past Sunday. I appreciate the love. I don't know what it is about birthdays. You get, is it that the age? I don't know. how you tie a birthday to an age, because I don't feel old. I don't look old. I still feel young. I still can get up off my bed without any pain in my body. But whatever the case may be, I thank all of you for sending me the well wishes and happy birthday. Now let's get to your favorite show to come on every single week on the Mailbag. And I'm talking about the Veer Mahan Report. Now, the Veer Mahan Report took place this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw, live from Washington, D.C. And yes, we did get an appearance of the Indus-Sher in a backstage segment. And this was a little run-in with Ludwig Kaiser of Imperium, as Ludwig Kaiser says, "What's your problem?" And Jinder Mahal, the modern-day Maharaja, says, "We don't have any problem. You're just going to see Adam Pearce. But I strongly suggest that you choose your next move wisely." I don't know what this is leading to. Maybe a Ludwig Kaiser babyface turn. Maybe him getting kicked out of the Imperium. Maybe him having a little run-in again with the Indus-Sher. Whatever the case may be, I want to see where this continues to. But on their Instagram account, on both Jinder Mahal, Veer Mahan, and Sangha, they put out an Instagram reel collectively, and it says something with a caption that reads, "Unity, Power, Class. We are the business. The Indus-Sher." Now, I don't know where this is leading to, but I really want to see a video package representing who my guys are. They're not just bad guy foreigners from India. These guys are the world class in their field. Sangha, a former actor, and I believe he was a kickboxer, a former kickboxing champion. Jinder Mahal, of course, we already know that he was a former WWE champion. And my guy Veer Mahan, before he came into professional wrestling, he was the guy that was inspired by the Disney movie The Golden Arm, where he was pitching for the Pittsburgh Pirates, one of the best pitching prospects for that baseball team back in the day. And I want to see some representation just to get an understanding of who these guys are. About who? The Indus-Sher of my guy Veer Mahan, Sangha, and the modern day Maharaja Jinder Mahal. I hopefully want to see them next week back on WWE Monday Night Raw. Maybe another continuation with the Ludwig Kaiser little spiel that we have in the backstage, or something more. But with that being said, this is your guy DJ Kuzmo. Have a blessed week. Be kind to one another. Stay using my friends, and peace.
Oh, well, hey, listen. Happy birthday, DJ. I'm awful at birthdays. I mean, I have to look up my mom's birthday's tomorrow. I'm like, oh crap, right? I'm awful. I mean, my own birthday, it's not like I'm sitting here prioritizing my own birthday either. I'm not sitting here counting the days. My birthday, I don't even look at it as important anymore. And I don't mean that in a kind of detrimental way. I don't know. It just it's not exciting as it used to be, as a kid, or even in a teenager in my 20s when we just all go out and drink, right? That is just, for me, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but happy birthday to you, my friend. I hope it was a great one. And I was excited to see the Indus-Sher as well, even if it was a kind of a quick hitting segment, and you got Ludwig Kaiser there that I'd imagine they're going to be feuding with with Imperium. I hope they do, because they need something to sink their teeth into. And if that absence was them just being able to set the stage for a return for the Indus-Sher, to be able to also identify who and what they are, as you said, what they power, class, and unity or something. I like that. Yeah, I like that. And also that you said it right. They're not just this, heel force because they're from a different country. That is certainly a formula that has been used in wrestling forever, since the beginning of time, that, it's somebody from a different country, let's boo them. It's so simplistic, and it still is, used today. And I don't want that. So I'm agreeing with you as well, DJ. Thank you. Keep on rolling.
Hey man, this is Sharon from Israel. We are going to War Games. I had enough of your games. I don't want any games. Do you want to play Monopoly? It's just another game. And yes, they are saying so much to World Game that I wonder which main event is it. Oh, that's right. It's Survivor Series. It's not War Games, for God's sake. I really doesn't understand how they keep calling it Survivor Series if they don't have Survivor Series matches. So it's weird. So please decide, or War Games or Survivor Series, because it's not the same. So if you call it War Games, it's not Survivor Series. That's one thing. Second thing, I gotta say that I feel kind of weird with the War Games this year. There is not like main championship that's being defended. The War Games matches are like, I mean, they will be nice, but I kind of have a feeling that they do not mean anything. Like, okay, one group beats another. So there's like no championship, there is no number one contender, there is no like, I don't know, like a great win for your team. It's just like one team wins the other, so yeah, I don't know. Doesn't so much excite me. What else? One more thing that I gotta say, that I'm really happy how Triple H is developing the women's section of Raw and SmackDown. There are so much women's, there are great stories with women's. I gotta say that it's good that the women's getting more time and getting more development, but you have to understand that also they will never be in the level of the men. It sounds like a little bit racist, but this is the thing. There are more men wrestlers than women. The main champion are men, not women. Maybe if they will put enough women, there will be a change. There will be like more equal between the men and the women. Right now it doesn't happen, but we shall see. One last thing, Matt, I gotta say that I tried to put asleep my baby, and I didn't manage to do it. So my wife tagged me and tried to do it by herself, but she didn't do it as well. So I tagged her and came to make the baby sleep, but I couldn't do it as well. So in the end, the baby couldn't sleep, and we both failed in our part as parents. But doesn't it's like little bit like handicap match? Like I kept thinking like me and my wife against the Big Show, and none of us can win him, and my baby is the Big Show, and like this is like kind of a handicap match. So yeah, the baby won me and my wife in a handicap match. I probably you understand that. So yeah, bye, have a good one. War Games!
Only wrestling fans would be able to equate putting down a baby to try to sleep to wrestling. I mean, it's a handicap match. Yeah, it's like a handicap match. Even though you're on the team that has another partner, somehow you feel at a disadvantage. It's like facing somebody with unlimited finishers. You know, no matter how many times you try to hit your finish, they kick out and kick out and kick out. It's kind of like that. Now, of course, we're not advocating for attempting any finishing maneuvers on a child, but yeah, that is, if you're looking for an equivalent of that, of wrestling to putting down your child to sleep, especially an infant, that is certainly it. And hey, what I will say, just out of base experience here, with having a couple of kids myself, we're out of the baby stage, which is good and bad because you miss it, but you also have no sleep and you're a zombie. So there's that. But what I would say is try not to get your baby in the habit of needing to nurse to sleep, or especially getting them in the habit of co-sleeping with you to sleep. We made that mistake with our first one. We didn't make that with our second one. That's for damn sure. So Just a couple of pieces of advice there, because you can easily, here's the thing. If you don't take anything away from this other than one thing, you can do what's easy or you can do what's hard now to pay yourself back later, right? Like if you just do whatever you need to do to, get the baby to sleep, but then you make a habit of it, even though down the line you're probably going to pay for it, trust me, you're going to pay for it, if that makes sense. Now, as far as your other points here of nothing on the line with Survivor Series, yeah, there isn't. I would imagine there's nothing on the line other than pride, and I'm going to beat you up, and you're going to beat me up, which has been the narrative of Survivor Series for a while. But yeah, is this really Survivor Series? Meaning there's no eliminations. Who's the survivor? This is not there's no 5-on-5 elimination match yet that I'm aware of. The Survivor Series name is all that's being used here, but it's not actually being executed. It's not actually being used. It's just the War Games match under the brand, under the umbrella of Survivor Series. It's using the Survivor Series brand equity to promote the War Games match, because people know what Survivor Series is. It's one of the big four, but it doesn't actually implement anything to survive. There's no survival matches. The War Games match is one fall to a finish. But, okay, as far as the women, now, there are more men employed in WWE than women. That's true. But, I don't know. I don't know if I'd call it racist. I think, sexist may be some of the terms people use. However, I don't think WWE is being sexist. I think that the fans have done a really nice job of, first of all, telling WWE that they want the women in prominent spots, which is the whole women's evolution, give divas a chance from how many years ago that started this whole thing. They brought in Ronda Rousey. That has catapulted WWE to the main event of WrestleMania for the women with, of course, Charlotte and Becky and Ronda in a fun main event that still never got one-on-one with Becky and Ronda, which is absolutely insane to me. But it just comes down to, of course, giving the women more time. And I think WWE can give the women more time. That's something they can do that I've noticed them lately falling off on. Some of these matches they've given the women have been like 2 minutes. I mean, like Akira Tozawa time. So they can give women more of an opportunity, more of a platform to actually have minutes in the ring and develop storylines and have programs that aren't all about championships, which they've done. And I've been happy about that, because it seemingly has been everything the women do. It's everything's about the championship, which, they should be focusing on the championship, but things can have a personal element to them. You can have programs that aren't all about the belts, and those are fun too, and sometimes more fun. But right now, I think the women are certainly a better spot than they were 15 years ago. But I think right now they need star power. They need compelling storylines. This is nothing revolutionary I'm saying here. And right now they don't have a ton of it. Becky Lynch is in a weird spot. Charlotte's kind of in a weird spot. Jade Cargill's hanging over everyone's heads maybe she's too busy taking pictures of herself and posting them on Twitter. But that said, yeah, like, they have young talent. They've brought up Indy Hartwell, who's done a nice job. Zoe Stark's getting an opportunity with Rhea Ripley. Zelina Vega is being used more now than she was before as, part of the LWO. Isla Dawn and Alba Fire, while they haven't debuted, they're starting to come into the eyeballs of the fans. They are introducing new talent. It's just a matter of being consistent. That's the problem. Consistency with WWE, with the women's division and other things like the tag team divisions, have been nothing but inconsistent. I mean, where are the women's tag team titles, by the way? I mean, who the hell knows? So, thanks, Sharon, and get yourself some sleep. Tag out. Get a chair. I don't know. Maybe you need to cheat behind the referee's back to win this handicap match. So grab a chair. I don't know. All right. Let's get to our next one.
Hey, Matt. So it's Brad in Florida. I just finished watching the Raw from Washington, D.C., which I actually thought was not a great episode, but the ending was great, with Drew turning and kicking Jay in the face. And it was really great how they really planned this weeks and weeks and weeks ahead. If you remember Drew saying to whoever in the back, like Jay, comes to Raw and this jerk Cody brought him here and they better not screw anything up for me, whatever. I mean, it was really well planned and thought out. Obviously the conversation in the back with Rhea Ripley and everything, but I think this creates a big conundrum for, Judgment Day, because Drew's going to go for that world title and he's probably going to get it with Rhea and Dom and everyone helping him. And I would imagine with Damian having the briefcase, that's going to create a problem. So we'll see. I mean, but it's a very interesting thing. I think it's an enormous opportunity to turn Damian babyface. Drew kicks him out of the group. Eventually Damian cashes in on him in an enormous way and just gets a gigantic pop from it, as a babyface. Who knows what happens down the line. But my question to you is about Becky Lynch, because she's just not getting the crowd reaction that we're used to from her. And I finally put my finger on it tonight. I honestly think, man, she does not talk like a normal person at all. And you can't say that about anyone else on the WWE roster, whether it's even Seth Rollins. Like, he'll give you normal speaking at times. Roman, Sami Zayn, KO. I mean, there's not one person on the roster who speaks like her. Everything is, the man has come around to this. And she just does not talk in a way that is relatable over the last 6 months. And I think that, I don't know, I think that's why the audience is having a little bit of trouble connecting with her, because her promos and her in-ring stuff, it doesn't sound normal. I just keep saying the same thing over and over again, but that's my point, man. I want to know what you thought about that. I wish she would change up the way she's acting, because I want to see a little bit of the real person, a little bit, without these platitudes and whatever way she speaks in now. So speak to you soon, bro. Thanks for taking me, or thanks for letting me leave the voicemail. Love your show.
Hey, Brad, good to hear you. And okay, before I get to Becky Lynch, I do want to, address your first point here about Damian Priest and the conundrum here. They are presenting themselves in a pickle, but I was looking at when Damian Priest won Money in the Bank, and that was July 1st. So July 1st, it feels like it was longer than that. So if it was July 1st, that was, 4 months ago? So we actually have 8 months left of Senior Money in the Bank. It feels like it was 6 months. I thought for some reason it was in May. But that means we do have 8 months left of Damian Priest potentially carrying that championship, and you could in that time turn Damian babyface by having him cash in on Drew. Where Drew wins it, they help him win, but the idea is, since they have had this kind of behind-the-scenes alliance and the shaking of Rhea's hand and the catching Damian, or rather Rhea and Drew backstage a number of weeks ago talking in the background, all that's coming to pass. And you're right, they did build this nicely. And Drew could be the one to take the belt off of Seth, with the idea that, okay, Damian's going to cash in and beat Drew. They do have a heck of a little bit of a conundrum there, but there's a lot that they could do. Honestly, you could keep Drew babyface even. You really could. And have Damian cash in on Drew. After Drew finally gets his moment, Damian cashes in and spoils it. He's still the heel. Drew wants revenge. You really could go either way. But if I was to choose, I would choose Drew as a heel, because we haven't seen it in so long. And there's a lot he could do there. And a lot of guys he could work with, like Cody, like LA Knight if he wants to go to SmackDown, like Seth Rollins. A lot of guys and a lot of fun matchups yet to be had. Your other question that you had, Becky Lynch. Yeah, I touched on it just briefly a few minutes ago. She does feel disconnected. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that she was involved in a program with Trish that went on way too long. And hilariously, we wanted more actually after the finale cage match that was a really, really good match and overachieved on so many levels, and people were like, this program's not so bad. But they seemingly saved the best for last, and Trish went on her way. But it was so long and arduous that I think that kind of put a damper on her character. Then she left WWE programming and went, the quote-unquote main roster, and went to NXT for a couple of months, played champion for a while, and came back. I think it's because her opponents have been kind of womp-womp. That's part of it. She hasn't exactly, and I know she's in the trying to help build new stars, and I'm all for that. Yeah, but she hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire with her opponents. She's been on the sidelines for quite a while. She was involved in a program with Trish that went on way too long. And also, as you mentioned, her promos. And if I'm sure you saw it too in NXT. Her promo, it's like she sat backstage or sat there all week at her house or on a plane in an airport, wherever, and she's coming up with this rhyme and trying to be clever, talking about her opponents. And it was awful. It was just terrible. It was terrible. And that didn't help her. But the way she talks just generally is very kind of, what's the word I want to say? It's very produced or kind of showy, or there's a word and I can't put my finger on it. Performative, maybe, is the best one. It's very performative. She's in her performance voice, not in her normal speaking voice. And I don't feel like she's ever talking to me. She's just cutting a promo. And there's a difference, as you know. There's a big difference between talking to me and cutting a promo. And I think she's just in promo mode now. It's like she's been on autopilot. And I think she recognizes that. And she's trying to change things up a little bit by changing her hair a little bit more blonde and wearing a different outfit to the ring. But her reactions of coming out haven't been exactly through the roof. But the good thing is, with Becky Lynch being the star that she is, how big of a star she is, you can turn that around. I think once you get her in the ring with a big time star right now, like a Rhea Ripley, things will change. But the question is, do they change for the better or the worse? Because if you're trying to push Becky Lynch as a babyface against Rhea Ripley, I don't know if the fans are going to go with it. They love themselves some mommy. And they're ready for the new generation to kind of take over, and Rhea Ripley is the face of that. And you could honestly turn Rhea Ripley babyface at any time. Fans are clamoring for that. I mean, you hear the mommy chants every Monday night. They were chanting mommy against Zoe Stark this week on Raw. So the support is there. It's growing. But they're suppressing it the best they can. But it's there and it's ready. It's ready at any time. With Becky Lynch, she's kind of a stale character. She hasn't really done much other than change the tone of her hair. She's in promo mode. She hasn't done a whole lot of anything exciting over the last 6 months. Add all that up and you're going to come out with a ho-hum reaction. But it's not something that can't be undone. This is something that can be fixed because she's an established star. So thanks, Brad. Good to hear from you. Next voicemail. Actually, we got a quick question and this is from a patron, but it's a quick one. From Zach. I just got it. I didn't miss you. I just got it in. I saw it come in. So here's what Zach says from Patreon. He says, I believe the Shield should reunite at some point before Rollins and Reigns retire. If Ambrose never returns to WWE, which current wrestler would be the perfect replacement, and how would you book it? Okay, well, Ambrose will eventually return to WWE. I'm sure he will return when they are ready to go into the Hall of Fame. That's at the bare minimum. But as I said earlier in the show, I don't think Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley has any interest in actually coming back right now. As I said, he's getting paid a large sum of money, probably equivalent to what he was getting paid in WWE, for a fraction of the shows, which means less wear and tear on his body, less mileage, less travel, and he's able to work with his wife and be on the same show as his wife, wife, Renee Paquette. So they have it made right now. Do I think eventually Dean will come back for a match or two? Sure. Why not? I think especially with Vince gone, that maybe whets the appetite a little bit in terms of, Dean Ambrose kind of just peeking over and going, what's going on over there? What's he's kind of just peeking over the fence like Wilson in Home Improvement and going, I'm dating myself with Home Improvement, I know. But he's like looking over the fence, just checking things out, right? So I don't think it's imminent, but I'd say in the next 5 years, it's very possible. Another thing that's possible, guys, and this is not to your point, Zach, is MJFing F Okay, MJF. Please, WWE, for the love of God, when he becomes a free agent, bring him to WWE. I'll just leave it at that because January 1st, 2024, we're already here. So if he doesn't return, which wrestler would be the perfect replacement? There isn't one. There just isn't. Yeah, I mean, you can't replace the Shield. It's either the original cast or it's none. I really believe that. Thanks, Zach. All right, let's get to, I think we only have, like 2 more voicemails? Let's see who's next.
Ask the French guy here, your current European champion. What do you want to talk about? Just joking. I wanted to talk about Cody Rhodes this week on a deeper level because I've been watching some of his promo in AEW this week, and I also came across a lot of positive things about the guy, but we'll talk about that another week because I think as a wrestler, he is absolutely good, very good, but there's something lacking about him, but that's not the subject of this week. Finally, I've been negative last week about Monday Night Raw being the same over and over, but that week decision, Drew McIntyre turning heel, I don't know if he joins the Judgment Day or it's just like a contract between them. It doesn't really matter. The only thing that matters is that right now, Monday Night Raw is superior to SmackDown. And that's completely crazy given the fact that all the star power that SmackDown has. And Drew McIntyre turning heel is a great, great, great idea, long overdue. But what can you do? Super, super interesting things that you can do. Drew McIntyre against, I don't know, like in the War Games, I think he will join Judgment Day. But after that, again, against Seth Rollins and this time beating him, being the champion, I don't know, against Cody Rhodes, giving him a hard time this time, like putting Cody Rhodes in a very, very like in a tough position, winning the rivalry against Cody Rhodes, making him a bigger face than he is right now because he will be struggling against Drew McIntyre. I don't know, Drew McIntyre against Seth Rollins for the championship, Drew McIntyre against Sami Zayn. I don't know, there's so much possibility right now. This is a great Monday Night Raw. This is a great decision, and that's all for me for this week. Very positive Monday Night Raw. See you guys.
Yeah, hey, look, I like it too. Like I said, though, be very wary. I don't know if this is probably an official turn. This is probably the moment we were all thinking it was going to happen a number of months ago, and it finally happened here on Raw. But again, if Drew comes out and tells you why he's justified in doing it, how can you argue? With Jay costing him the Undisputed Championship, all Drew was doing was returning the favor in kind. So that seems pretty okay to me. Pretty justified. But ultimately, I think the fans will take this as a heel turn and roll with it. And I'm fine with that. I'm totally fine with that. I'm excited too. Like you said, Sammy, Seth, he has a number of people he can work with. Cody Rhodes, right off the bat, three top guys that he could work with, and Jey Uso. So turning Drew heel here is absolutely the right move. All right. Thanks, Alex. One more to go.
Hey, it's Kyle from Baltimore. I wanted to talk about I was just listening to your review. You said that Jay was the reason that McIntyre lost that clash of the castle. That's not really true. It was Solo who caused Drew the championship, not Jay. It's actually Solo. So, but he did have problems with the bloodline as a whole. He still doesn't really trust Jay. I get that from, his time on SmackDown and all that stuff. But the real person who cost him the championship was actually Solo. But because Solo isn't there, Jay still has issues with Jay. So it still kind of makes sense. But that was it. He still didn't trust Jay because of the past years of him getting screwed or just the blowout as a whole. But the real person who cost him the championship was actually Solo Sikoa, not Jey Uso. So, but I get the reason, and he just doesn't trust Jay just because of being part of the bloodline, being part of Roman Reigns. But I get it. It still makes sense, but I don't think that's the fault. But Jay wasn't the reason why he lost the Universal Championship at Clash of the Castle. It was actually Solo Sikoa. So, sort of cleared that part up, though, of that, what you said on your review for Raw. But I still get it, and it's still fine. I'm glad that McIntyre's a heel. Makes sense. I'm sick of him as a babyface. So, I could have probably liked this more, him as a heel than a babyface. But, that's it. Thanks for the call. Bye.
Yeah, Kyle, it's a fair point. It was Solo. I don't even think Jay was actually directly involved in the match. For some reason, it just is a default that Jay seemed to be involved in every single finish of the Roman Reigns title defenses since he was a part of the Bloodline. But you're right. I looked at that, and Solo was the actual person who cost him. But by association, Jay's guilty. So, that's I think still valid in that Jay, by being associated and a part of the Bloodline, is still guilty of it. And right. So still, I think that'll be the justification that Drew will put out on the table, but it won't hold water because ultimately Drew is not going to be accepted by the fans as a babyface anymore. So, all right, cool. Thanks, Kyle. Thank you to everybody for your emails and voicemails. I appreciate it. I will be back on Sunday with your weekend review. And until then, take care. Don't forget to join Patreon as a ad-free member if you want to. $1 gets you in the door, but if you go up to the NXT Plus, you get an exclusive show every other week, and then SmackDown and the Raw tiers, and there's a whole bunch above that. And I encourage you to check out the Discord server that's available to everyone that's a patron. It's a separate little private chat area. And there's also something called Community Chat, which is available to everybody as well, only on the Patreon app. It's like a little chat room. So we have the Discord server and Community Chat for everyone that's a patron. It's not exclusive to specific tiers, so check us out there. Head on over to WWEpodcast.com for ad-free content and all of our podcasts, or head on over to Apple Podcasts for ad-free stuff as well. You can download the app or hit the ad-free button right in Apple Podcasts. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Take care. I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the WWE Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your favorite podcast app so you don't miss a show, or head to WWEpodcast.com. And for all of these shows ad-free, head over to patreon.com/WWE Podcast. Until then, we'll see you next time.